I think Simon's up to plate next, up to bat from Rackla.
So we'll go to exploration now.
Thank you for Tara. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So Rackla entered following Snowline's discovery in 2022. Rackla took a look at the Tombstone Belt. I've worked in the Tombstone before, and started staking ground to the east of Snowline, because there's all this whole belt of intrusives had been looked at for lead, zinc, tungsten, tin, and my research showed me that there'd be no exploration for gold to the east of Snowline in the Yukon and in the Northwest Territories. So we entered in late 22, we staked some ground and went to work in 2023. And we worked on the belt for the last couple of years, and then mid last year, some ground came open to the south of where we were working. The South Udeni opened up some ground after it shut down for some years for land planning, and they opened it up for industry exploration. And we staked some, we saw some ground that was open with some good geochemistry draining from the intrusive, staked it, and as we see this granite body there poking out of the ground, as Peter said that term before, and we found that whole cliff face, strongly altered, veined, running good grade gold. So when we go in this area, we usually do stream sediment geochem around the intrusive, follow up on the government geochem, and then do talus sampling at the breaking slope where the cliff and the talus come together. We did that on this intrusive body, and on this south face, we got like 550 meters running over a gram in the talus, with a core zone within that of 180 meters running 3.68 grams in the talus. Sampling, the geo that did that talus sample line took a couple of grab samples, got 92 grams and 15 grams in outcrop. That whole cliff face is altered, strongly altered and veined. And so is the backside of the hill. So we've only been able to sample. We've spent about 10 man days on this property in total to date. And this is what the granite looks like. It's shattered with veining over that whole 180 meters. It looks more like a schist than a granite, but it is a Cretaceous granite intrusion, Mayo Sweet, excuse me. I always get dry when I'm on stage talking, but we got a pretty intense altered granite, outcropping, sticking out of the ground, with great gold numbers coming from it. On the backside of the hill, we got the same intense alteration, and we get the float that we picked up running down from that hill is also running good gold grades. We have bismuth-telluride gold in that core area. Outside of that, we do get a bit of arsenic, but in that core area, the bismuth gold telluride grades are strong. I think the bismuth is quite a bit stronger than in many of these. For the minimum sampling we've done to date, we're getting sort of up to from 0.5% to 2% bismuth, which is strongly anomalous, obviously. But the grade, so are the gold grades, up to 92 grams, almost 3 ounces in grab samples. It's pretty impressive.
Great. Okay. Well, this is well named, Bite, bismuth, tellurium.
Tell them. Yeah,
if that was lost on anybody out there. It's very altered sounding versus a lot of the other systems we've been talking about.
And that's obviously the bismuth-telluride in the samples, in the veining. I mean, some of the veins, there's quite a bit of dissemination within the intrusive, not just in the veins themselves, in that main core zone. But never built drill hole, never been sampled before, never been staked before.
And how thick? It looked like it was 200 or 300 meters thick?
Looks like it's on the backside of the hill, 450 meters away.
Okay.
And getting the same numbers.
Lots of sericite, or why is it so?
That's the geos over there. Sericite, I don't think there's much, is there?
There's a core area of silica sericite around it, and then it gets lesser as you get outside of that. But to me, it looks like there's a later alteration overprint on a reduced intrusion system.
VG?
We haven't seen any yet, no.
Okay.
I mean, it's all pretty oxidized where we've been sampling. Like I said, we've had 10 man days in total on this property to date. The ridgetop looks as strongly altered like the base here. It looks very, very similar. So it is certainly a very sizable target.
Okay, and that bismuth-tellurides is, I think, on a number of these breakfasts we've tried to educate investors that that's really proximal. You want the bismuth-tellurides. with arsenic on the
outside,
fringes.
yeah. And some getting into some base metals also on the outside of that main core. You know, a bit of copper.
Are you getting tungsten?
Yeah, tungsten throughout the whole. I mean, pretty low. What would it be, like 100 ppm tungsten, 200 ppm?
Definitely anomalous. We're up to 0.66% tungsten on some of the samples.
Okay. And final one before I hand it over to Peter for questions. Any tourmaline?
Yeah. Right, you see the black in the veins there, that's tourmaline. I mean, if I had a rock I could show you, we got that same black face on many of the, many of the good samples.
Yeah, it seems like tourmaline's emerging in some deposits, not
Right.
all. And Mike
Right.
Berkey will probably comment on that when we get to him.
Guess
But
I will now.
to go to Peter now.
Sure. Can we go back a couple of slides? Is that possible? Next one. There we go. This, by the way, is a fantastic slide. This is
Yeah.
really, really interesting, like out of a geology textbook or something. So, so very cool.
Very
image
good.
here.
I really don't believe anybody's ever walked up that top part of that creek before.
I can see why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the top of the mountain is at about 7,200 feet.
Okay. So my question for you is, you know, I understand your target and what you're trying to do here. What's your approach for exploring this in?
Well, we need to get.
2025?
I mean, we didn't land on the ridge top last year. We need to get mountaineering geos on ropes, hanging off the cliff top, sampling both sides of that face.
Is that going to be on the analyst site visit too?
Yeah, well, you can. We'll get you on the rope, Peter, if you want to. I think we'll start drilling. The plan initially is to do more sampling at the base of the cliff, where we have what we call the bite zone, where we have all that high grade, and then start drilling at that base there sometime in July, early July. So the bottom of the talus, where the red line is, up the intrusive there is also running a couple of grams of bismuth-telluride.
Okay, and then
And then get the mountaineering geos on the top, and if we see the same numbers along the face on both sides, put drill pads on the top of the ridge there.
okay, and your sense, if we just, I think if we look at the next slide, sorry to make you jump around on the slides here, but we see this, you know, there's obviously, you're collecting the talus there at the bottom, but what's your sense of your targeting, you know, because each deposit is a bit different from each other.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
what's your sense here on, you know, whether you're targeting actually in the intrusion or whether you're targeting on the margins of it? Or
No, definitely in the
how's your
intrusion.
targeting?
If we go to the next slide, you see the intrusive is just shattered with veining.
Yeah.
Quartz tourmaline veining, quartz sulfide veining. I say sulfide, but it's bismuth-telluride.
Yeah.
As you get further out, you see some arsenopyrite, but in that core zone.
Yeah.
So drilling into the intrusive, through the talus into the intrusive, and cut below that. We have one channel sample on the cliff, and that was a 40-meter channel sample was 38 meters of 1.8 grams.
Okay.
So then we did a lot of short 2-meter chips, and they came in sort of 1 to 2 grams. So you got a broad 1 to 2 gram halo with some very high grade veins within that.
Okay. So that's your primary target.
That's the primary target,
Yeah,
definitely.
okay. And then you haven't even started drilling this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are there other intrusions in the?
We've
real
identified
property
2 other intrusive bodies close by that have never been mapped in before.
Okay.
We haven't sampled them yet at all,
Yeah.
though. We just focused on this one. Once we found that, we got those talus results back, obviously we went straight back there.
Yeah.
So.
Would you say, Simon, that this is a very thick dike from what you're looking at so far?
A thick dike? No, I think we're in the apex of an intrusive body.
Okay.
It's totally altered and veined.
And what's the range and thickness of the actual individual veins?
Inches. I mean, in some places we can't see the veins. I mean, those quartz tourmaline veins, it's more like a facing on the vein. What would you say, Scott? Have we seen any real?
It's tough to get a handle because it is so shattered and they're all dissected. I've seen 1 2-meter wide vein that we could see and trace, but for the most part, it's really tough to get a handle. I'd say centimeters generally.
And
you can actually see some of them.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, whether you can actually see them. And how about density?
You
How many veins?
see the vein behind Mike?
Yeah. Okay,
there you go.
that is a vein.
Right.
So how many veins per meter
Wow.
range?
Yeah, haven't been able to count yet. Multiple.
Okay.
And then what
And
about?
some of them are running along the plane that we're looking down there, and some of them are cutting into the vein.
Yeah.
I
So
was
there's
gonna ask you
multiple
that.
directions.
I was going to ask you
Okay.
about orientation and.
For the most part, running about 310, but then there's some that are cutting right into the cliff itself, which would be more east-west.
So you have multiple orientations.
Multiple orientation, definitely.
You got 15 seconds, Simon. What's the scope of drilling for the ship?
2,000 in the valley, basically starting out there, put 2,000 meters in the valley with 5 or 6 different pads and splaying out. And then depending on what we get on the ridgetop from the sampling up there. Obviously putting pads along that ridgetop, it's rugged, it's windy, but, so we got to make sure we need them before we do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon.
Thank
Rackla.
you.